October 11, 1943. The sky above Wewak, New Guinea. Lieutenant Colonel Neel Kearby banks his Republic P-47 Thunderbolt at 26,000 feet. Below, a formation of Japanese bombers crawls toward Allied positions, escorted by more than 30 fighters. 36 enemy aircraft against 4 P-47s, 12-1 odds. Kearby's wingmen expect the order to withdraw. Instead, his voice crackles over the radio. We attack. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the story, hit the subscribe button and let us know in the comments from where in the world you are watching from today. The Thunderbolts roll inverted and plunge. Speed builds, 600 kilometers per hour, 700, 800. The air screams past the canopy. 8 50 caliber machine guns loaded with 3,400 rounds of ammunition. Weight, nearly 8 tons at combat load. This is not a dogfighter. This is a hammer falling from heaven. The first burst lasts 2 seconds. A Nakajima Ki-43 Hayabusa disintegrates. Wings shear off. Fuselage splits. Fire blooms against the tropical sky. Kearby climbs, rolls, dives again. Another Ki-43 tries to turn with him. Impossible. The P-47 drops like a stone. Distance closes to 150 meters. Another burst, another kill. The Japanese scatter. They have never seen anything like this. By the time Kearby lands at Leh, fuel gauges reading nearly empty, he has destroyed 6 enemy aircraft in a single engagement. The highest single mission score yet recorded by an American pilot in the Pacific. General Douglas MacArthur will award him the Medal of Honor. But the real story is not about one man's courage. It is about why the Japanese learned to fear the P-47 Thunderbolt while their Zeros continued to dominate almost every other Allied fighter in the Pacific skies. January 1943. Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea. The 5th Air Force Headquarters. General George Kenney stares at the cable from Washington. The 348th Fighter Group is being assigned to his command. Equipment 72 P-47 Thunderbolts. Kenney reads the specifications and feels his stomach sink. Empty weight 4.5 tons, combat weight nearly 8. Wingspan 12.4 meters. For comparison, the Mitsubishi A6M0 weighs less than 2 tons. The Nakajima Ki-43 Oscar, even lighter. The Lockheed P-38 Lightning, Kenney's preferred fighter, weighs about 6 tons but has 2 engines and range that can stretch across the vast Pacific distances. The P-47 seems grotesque, a milk jug with wings. Too heavy, too short-ranged, too clumsy for the close-in, turning fights that dominate Pacific combat. The Zero has been terrorizing Allied pilots for 2 years precisely because it can outturn anything in the sky. The Curtiss P-40 Warhawk, the Brewster Buffalo, even the Grumman F-4F Wildcat, all learned the hard way. Get into a slow-speed turning fight with a Zero or an Oscar, and you die. Kenney's pilots are vocal in their contempt. We need P-38s, they say, or the new P-51 Mustangs, not this 7-ton beast that handles like a freight train. But Kenney has no choice. Aircraft production is stretched across 2 oceans, and what arrives is what you use. The question is how to make it work. June 1943. Brisbane, Australia. The 348th Fighter Group arrives by ship. Their commander, Lieutenant Colonel Neel Kearby, is 32 years old, ancient by fighter pilot standards. Most of his pilots are in their early 20s. Some have never seen combat. They assemble at Archer Field to receive their aircraft, flown in from the United States via island-hopping routes. The P-47Ds sit on the tarmac, massive, ungainly. The fuselage swells to nearly 1.5 meters in diameter to accommodate the turbocharger ducting. The cowling houses the enormous Pratt & Whitney R2800 double-wasp radial engine, 18 cylinders, 2,000 horsepower, 4-blade propeller nearly 4 meters across. The landing gear legs stretch long to keep that propeller from striking the ground. One pilot walks around his assigned aircraft and shakes his head. It looks pregnant, he mutters. Kearby climbs into the cockpit of his own Thunderbolt. He has named it Fiery Ginger, after his wife Virginia. He knows what his pilots are thinking. He shares their doubts. The P-47 was designed for high-altitude bomber escort over Europe. It excels above 7,000 meters, where its turbocharger keeps the engine breathing at full power. But in the Pacific, most combat happens below 6,000 meters, down low, where the air is thick and the zero reigns supreme. Kearby starts the engine. The R-2800 roars to life. The entire aircraft vibrates. He pushes the throttle forward and begins his taxi. The visibility over the nose is poor. The aircraft feels like a tank, but as he rotates and climbs, something changes. The controls are heavy but responsive. The acceleration is brutal. This aircraft has energy, mass, momentum. Perhaps Kearby thinks the key is not to fight the way the Zero fights. Perhaps the key is to fight a completely different war. August 16, 1943, the sky above Marilenen, the 348th Fighter Group's first combat mission, 8 P-47s escorting transport aircraft. Mission: cover the transports as they land at a forward strip deep in Japanese-held territory. Altitude: 8,000 meters. The air is thin. Most engines struggle here. Not the R-2800. The turbocharger rams air into the cylinders at 1.4 atmospheres. The engine holds full power. Lieutenant Thomas Barber scans the sky. Movement below. 12 Nakajima Ki-43 Oscars climbing to intercept. Sleek, fast, agile. Built around a single principle. Turn tighter than your enemy, and you win. Empty weight just under 2 tons. Top speed around 540 kilometers per hour. Rate of climb: excellent. Armament: 2 12.7mm machine guns. The Oscars climb aggressively. They expect easy prey. American fighters in the Pacific have all fought the same way. The P-40s try to match the Japanese in turning fights and lose. The P-39 Airacobras are even worse. The Buffaloes were slaughtered in the Philippines and over Burma. Only the P-38 Lightning holds its own, and only by using its twin-engine speed advantage to strike and extend away. But the P-47 pilots have been trained differently. Kearby's voice cuts through the radio. Hold altitude. Do not engage in turning combat. Wait for my signal. The Oscars circle below, taunting, inviting the Americans down into a slow-speed brawl where Japanese maneuverability will dominate. The P-47 pilots hold patience, discipline. One Oscar makes a mistake. It climbs too steeply, losing energy trying to reach the American formation. Kearby rolls inverted, dives, speed builds, 600 kilometers per hour, 700. The Oscar pilot sees the threat and tries to turn. Too late. The P-47 is not turning. It is falling. 12.7mm rounds traveling at 850 meters per second, 70 shots per second from 8 guns simultaneously, 12 kilograms of lead every second. The Oscar's fuselage is lightly built, no armor, fuel tanks not self-sealing. The burst lasts 2 seconds. 140 rounds. Strike home. The Oscar explodes. Barber and Captain Max Wakes follow Kearby's example. 2 more Oscars fall. The remaining Japanese fighters scatter. They have never faced an opponent like this, an opponent that refuses to turn. That strikes from altitude with terrifying speed and climbs away before they can respond. The 348th returns to base. 3 confirmed kills, 0 losses. The P-47 has drawn first blood in the Pacific. September 4th, 1943. Kearby shoots down a Mitsubishi G4M bomber and an escort Zero. 10 days later, a Mitsubishi Ki-46 reconnaissance aircraft. His score climbs to 3, but these are isolated engagements. The real test is coming. The Japanese stronghold at Wewak, 4 major airfields, hundreds of aircraft, the nerve center of Japanese air power in New Guinea. Kearby studies the intelligence reports. He understands now. The P-47 will never outturn a Zero or an Oscar. It cannot. Physics forbids it. At slow speeds, in horizontal turns, the lighter Japanese fighters will always have the advantage. But the P-47 has other strengths. Strengths the Japanese have never encountered. First, altitude performance. The turbocharger allows full power above 8,000 meters. Most Japanese fighters gasp for air up there. Their engines, lacking effective supercharging, lose power rapidly above 5,000 meters. The P-47 can loiter at altitudes where the enemy cannot reach it, invisible, waiting. Second, dive speed. 8 tons of mass accelerates ferociously in a dive. The P-47 can reach 800 kilometers per hour in a vertical plunge. The Zero's wings begin to flutter dangerously above 700. The Oscar cannot follow at all. In a dive, the Thunderbolt is untouchable. Third, structural strength. The P-47 can withstand 12 G-forces in a pull-out. The Zero, built light for maneuverability, is limited to about 8. A P-47 pilot can dive, pull out violently at low altitude, and know his aircraft will hold together. A Zero pilot attempting the same maneuver risks tearing his wings off. Fourth, firepower. 8 50 caliber Browning M2 machine guns, 4 in each wing, staggered to allow feeding from separate ammunition boxes. Each gun fires at around 850 rounds per minute. Total combined rate, 100 rounds per second. A 2-second burst delivers 200 rounds. Each round weighs 45 grams. Total weight of fire, 9 kilograms per second. The ammunition is mixed. Armor-piercing rounds with hardened steel cores that can penetrate 20 millimeters of armor at 500 meters. Armor-piercing incendiary rounds that ignite after penetration. Armor-piercing tracer rounds that leave a visible trail for aim correction. A standard belt alternates. 1 API, 1 AP, 3 APT. When 8 guns converge on a single target, the effect is catastrophic. The lightly built Japanese aircraft, designed to save weight at every opportunity, simply disintegrate. No armor around the cockpit, no armor around the fuel tanks, no self-sealing tank liners. A single hit can set the aircraft aflame. A sustained burst tears the airframe apart. Fifth, survivability. The P-47 pilot sits behind 25 millimeters of steel armor plate. The windscreen is 38 millimeters of armored glass. Armor below protects against ground fire. Armor behind guards against rear attacks. The fuel tanks are self-sealing with double rubber linings and a carbon dioxide inert gas system. Even the engine is protected. The R2800 is an 18-cylinder radial. If 3 cylinders are shot out, the other 15 keep running. Liquid-cooled engines, like those in the Zero, fail catastrophically. If the coolant system is hit, a radial can absorb massive damage and continue functioning. Kearby briefs his squadron leaders. The tactics are clear. Never fight at the enemy's altitude. Always attack from above. Use altitude as currency. Trade it for speed. Dive, strike, extend, climb. Never stay to dogfight. If an Oscar gets on your tail, do not try to outturn it. Dive away. Push the throttle to maximum. The P-47 can reach speeds the Oscar cannot match. At high speed, the Japanese fighter becomes uncontrollable. Its light controls lock up. It cannot follow. Fly in pairs. One attacks, the other covers. The loner dies. The pair survives. Use your firepower. You do not need many hits. The Japanese aircraft are fragile. A short burst is lethal. Do not waste ammunition on long, inaccurate shots. Wait for close range, 200 meters or less. Then fire. Remember, you are not faster in level flight. The Oscar can match your speed at low altitude. You are not more maneuverable. The Zero will outturn you every time, but you are faster in the dive, stronger in the climb, tougher in construction, and vastly superior in firepower. Fight your fight, not theirs. October 11th, 1943. Kearby leads a reconnaissance flight to Wewak. 4 aircraft. Mission: photograph enemy installations and return. As they approach the target, the sky is clear, perfect visibility. Below, at 5,000 meters, the Japanese formation. 12 Mitsubishi Ki-21 heavy bombers, 36 fighters escorting. Kearby's fuel is already low. The mission is complete. The intelligent decision is to return home. Kearby makes a different choice. His radio call is calm. All flights. Attack. The 4 P-47s roll and dive. The geometry is perfect. The Americans are at 26,000 feet. The Japanese at 15,000. 11,000 feet of altitude to convert into speed and energy. The sun is behind the Americans. The Japanese see nothing until it is too late. Kearby's sight settles on the lead bomber. Distance 400 meters. He squeezes the trigger. 8 guns erupt. The bomber's fuselage erupts in flame. The wing separates. The aircraft falls. Kearby pulls up, rolls, selects a second target. A Ki-43 Oscar breaks toward him. Head on, pass. Both pilots fire. Kearby's 8 guns against the Oscar's 2. The Japanese fighter's nose disintegrates. It flips inverted and spins away. Captain William Dunham and Major Samuel Blair follow their leader into the melee. The Japanese are confused. They have never been attacked so aggressively, never seen American fighters commit to combat at such terrible odds. 2 more Oscars fall. The formation scatters. Kearby spots 2 Kawasaki Ki 61 Tonys attempting to get position on one of his pilots. He dives again. Speed builds past 700 kilometers per hour. The Tonys cannot evade. Both are destroyed. The fight lasts 53 minutes. Kearby's gun camera runs out of film after his 6th confirmed kill. He may have destroyed a 7th, but the evidence is incomplete. Captain Dunham claims 3 victories. The others add 2 more. Total 9 Japanese aircraft destroyed. Not a single American loss. The 4 P-47s land at Leh, an emergency strip, with less than 75 gallons of fuel remaining. Barely enough for 15 minutes of flight. Kearby climbs out of the cockpit. His hands are steady, his expression calm. He has just set an American record for a single mission. More importantly, he has proven a principle. The P-47 Thunderbolt, properly flown, can dominate the Pacific skies. General Kenny is elated. He immediately recommends Kearby for the Medal of Honor. General MacArthur approves. But the real victory is not the medal. It is the tactical revelation. The P-47 does not need to outmaneuver the Zero. It needs to refuse to maneuver at all. November 1943. The tactics spread through the 5th Air Force. Other P-47 units adopt Kearby's methods. The 35th Fighter Group, the 58th Fighter Group. Every pilot learns the same lesson. Do not fight the Japanese fight. Fight the American fight. Altitude, speed, firepower, discipline. The Japanese are baffled. Their pilots have been trained since the beginning of the war in close-in dogfighting. The tight turn, the slow-speed scissor, the patience to wait for the opponent to make a mistake. These tactics devastated the British in Malaya, the Americans in the Philippines, the Dutch in the East Indies. But they do not work against an opponent who refuses to engage on those terms. Japanese after-action reports begin to show a pattern. The American heavy fighter attacks from above. It dives very fast. Our fighters cannot catch it. When we climb to engage, it climbs faster. When we turn to evade, it does not follow. It extends away, climbs, and attacks again. Our pilots cannot get into firing position. The American guns are very powerful. A short burst destroys our aircraft. December 1943. The 348th Fighter Group supports Allied landings on New Britain. The P-47s fly ground attack missions, strafing enemy airfields, supply dumps, troop concentrations. The Japanese respond with everything they have. Zeros, Oscars, Tonys. The skies over New Britain erupt in combat. The P-47s shoot down 100 Japanese aircraft without losing a single pilot in aerial combat, 100-0. For covering the Allied invasion, the 348th receives a Distinguished Unit citation. Kearby's personal score reaches 19 victories. He is transferred to 5th Air Force Fighter Command Headquarters, officially a staff position. Unofficially, he continues flying combat missions whenever possible. General Kenny encourages it. The rivalry between aces sells war bonds, attracts press attention, keeps the 5th Air Force in the public eye. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the story, hit the subscribe button and let us know in the comments from where in the world you are watching from today. Kearby is competing with Richard Bong and Tommy Maguire, both flying P-38 Lightnings. Bong is the leading ace. Maguire is second. Kearby is third. All three are chasing Eddie Rickenbacker's World War I record of 26 victories. But Kearby has a deeper motivation. He believes the P-47 is being phased out too quickly. The P-38 and the new P-51 Mustang are taking over long-range escort duties. Kearby wants to prove the Thunderbolt still has value. Breaking Rickenbacker's record in a P-47 would generate headlines. Headlines would ensure the aircraft remains in production, remains in service. January 9th, 1944. Kearby shoots down 2 more fighters. His score reaches 21. He's closing the gap. 3 more victories and he matches Dick Bong. 5 more and he breaks Rickenbacker's record. The finish line is visible. March 5, 1944, Kearby takes off from Sidor with Captain William Dunham and Major Samuel Blair, a 3-aircraft patrol. Objective: search for Japanese aircraft over Wewak, the same skies where Kearby won his Medal of Honor 5 months earlier. They spot 3 Kawasaki Ki-48 light bombers approaching Dagwa airfield. Kearby attacks. He opens fire. Hits register, but the bomber does not fall. He circles to attack again. A fatal mistake. At high altitude, circling costs nothing. At low altitude, it costs everything. Speed bleeds off, energy dissipates. The P-47 slows below 400 kilometers per hour. A Nakajima Ki-43 Oscar from the 77th Sentai sees the opportunity. The American is slow, vulnerable, exactly where Japanese tactics excel. The Oscar pilot, Warrant Officer Koichi Mitoma or Sergeant Hiroshi Aoyagi, accounts differ, fires a burst, hits, strike Kearby's aircraft. The P-47 does not pull out, it does not climb. It drops into the jungle below. Dunham and Blair search desperately. They fly low, scanning the canopy. No parachute, no signal. Fuel runs low. They are forced to return to base. Dunham tries to launch a second search immediately. His fellow pilots physically restrain him. It is too late. Darkness is falling. The enemy controls the area. Kearby is gone. In July 1947, Australian War Graves personnel find the wreckage. Kearby's body is still strapped in the cockpit of Fiery Ginger 4. The only intact remnant is the white vertical stabilizer, serial number 42-22668. It will be returned to the United States and placed on display at the National Museum of the United States Air Force beside a restored P-47 painted in Kearby's markings. Kearby violated his own rule: never slow down at low altitude, never give the enemy a turning fight. He forgot for one moment, and it killed him. But his legacy survives. The tactics he developed, the proof he provided. The P-47 Thunderbolt can defeat Japanese fighters if flown correctly. February 1944, Tarawa Atoll, Central Pacific. The 318th Fighter Group arrives equipped with P-47Ds. This is a different theater from New Guinea. Longer distances. The targets are not jungle airstrips, but island fortresses. The enemy is the same: Zeros, Oscars, and the increasingly common Kawasaki Ki-84 Hayate Frank, a newer design that actually matches the P-47 in speed and firepower. If you find this story engaging, please take a moment to subscribe and enable notifications. It helps us continue producing in-depth content like this. Part 2. Continuation. The tactics remain unchanged. Altitude, dive, extend, climb, never turn with the enemy. But here, the distances test the P-47's limits. Even with drop tanks, range is marginal. Fuel management becomes critical. Every mission is calculated to the gallon. Pilots learn to throttle back during cruise, conserving fuel, then unleash full power only during combat. June 1944. Saipan. The 318th Fighter Group flies ground attack missions against Japanese positions. The P-47s carry bombs now, 1,000-pound gear, bombs under each wing, or high-velocity aircraft rockets, 5-inch HVRs, 10 under the wings. The aircraft that arrived in the Pacific as a pure fighter transforms into a devastating ground attack platform. The armor that keeps pilots alive in air combat now protects them from ground fire. 20mm flak bursts all around. Shells strike wings, fuselage tail. The P-47 absorbs the punishment. The radial engine takes hits. 1 cylinder fails. 2, 3. The other 15 keep running. Pilots limp home on damaged aircraft that would have killed them in any other fighter. A P-40 with a damaged coolant system has minutes before engine failure. A P-38 losing one engine must abort the mission. A zero hit in the fuel tank becomes a fireball. But the P-47 can lose cylinders, take flak through the wings, suffer hydraulic failures, and still bring the pilot home. Survivability is not an accident. It is design philosophy made real. July 1944, the Mariana Islands campaign. P-47s from the 7th Air Force fly constant sorties. They strafe Japanese aircraft on the ground. They bomb fuel dumps. They rocket supply convoys. And they continue to engage in air combat when the enemy appears. The kill ratio remains overwhelmingly in American favor. For every P-47 lost in aerial combat, more than 5 Japanese aircraft fall. But the Japanese are adapting. They avoid combat when P-47s are at altitude. They wait for the Americans to descend during ground attack runs, when speed is low and altitude advantage is gone. Then they strike. It is the only moment of vulnerability, the only time the P-47's weaknesses overcome its strengths. August 1944. Lieutenant James Thompson of the 318th Fighter Group attacks a Japanese convoy near Tinian. He runs in at 200 meters altitude, 500 kilometers per hour, 8 guns blazing. Trucks explode. Fuel tankers erupt in flame. Suddenly tracers flash past his canopy. A Zero has dropped from the clouds. At this altitude, this speed, the advantage shifts. Thompson tries to dive away, but he is already low. He pushes the throttle forward. The R-2800 roars. Speed builds. 600 kilometers per hour. The Zero is falling behind. Its controls are locking up. It cannot follow. Thompson pulls into a climbing turn. The heavy aircraft strains. G-forces crush him into the seat. Vision narrows, but the P-47 holds together. The Zero attempts the same maneuver, and its wings flutter. The Japanese pilot, feeling the airframe protest, eases off. Thompson escapes. Back at base, the crew counts 37 holes in his aircraft. 20-millimeter flak, 7.7-millimeter machine gun fire, 1 round lodged in the armor behind his seat. Without that steel plate, it would have severed his spine. The aircraft is repaired in 3 days and returns to service. October 1944, the Philippines campaign begins. P-47s from the 348th Fighter Group, now commanded by Colonel Robert Rowland, after Kearby's death, support MacArthur's return. The group has transitioned through multiple aircraft. They began with P-47Ds. Some pilots flew the Razorback variant with the original canopy. Others received the bubble canopy D models with improved visibility. Now, some are transitioning to P-51 Mustangs, but many stay with the Thunderbolt. They trust it. They know it will bring them home. The air over the Philippines is contested. The Japanese commit their remaining air strength. Hundreds of aircraft, Zeros, Oscars, Franks, even some Kawasaki Ki-45 Toryu Nicks, twin-engine heavy fighters designed specifically to intercept American bombers. The skies become a cauldron of combat. Daily missions, multiple sorties. Pilots fly until exhaustion overwhelms them. Major Thomas Maguire, the second-ranking American ace, flying a P-38, is killed on January 7, 1945. He violates the same rule that killed Kearby. He slows down at low altitude, trying to protect a wingman and a Zero pilot. Chief Petty Officer Akira Sugimoto shoots him down. Maguire has 38 victories. He will receive the Medal of Honor posthumously, but he is dead because he forgot. In the Pacific, altitude and speed are life. Maneuverability is death. The P-47 pilots remember. They do not forget. They cannot afford to. February 1945. Iwo Jima falls to American forces. The island is 750 kilometers from Tokyo. Suddenly, the Japanese home islands are within range. But not for the P-47D. Its range, even with drop tanks, is insufficient. The solution arrives in April. The P-47N. The N model is the ultimate Thunderbolt. The wing is redesigned. Longer span. Square-tipped. Increased fuel capacity. Wet wings carrying fuel internally for the first time in a Thunderbolt. With 4 external drop tanks, total fuel load reaches 1,266 gallons. Range over 2,000 miles. Now the P-47 can escort B-29 Superfortresses all the way to Japan and back. The 413th, 414th, and 507th Fighter Groups receive P-47Ns. They base on Iwo Jima and Okinawa. The missions begin in May 1945. Long-range fighter sweeps over Japan. The objective: destroy Japanese aircraft before they can launch kamikaze attacks against the invasion fleet assembling around Okinawa. May 25, 1945. The 318th Fighter Group launches a sweep over southern Japan. 48 P-47Ns. Altitude 21,000 feet. Speed 350 miles per hour. They are not carrying bombs or rockets, only ammunition. 3,000 rounds of 50 caliber ready to shred anything that flies. The Japanese have been saving their remaining aircraft for the final defense, the expected invasion of the home islands. But the P-47s will not wait. The sweep locates a Japanese airfield, dozens of aircraft on the ground, Mitsubishi A6M0s, Nakajima Ki-84 Franks, some Kawasaki Ki-100 fighters, a new variant designed to counter the latest American aircraft. The P-47s roll in, 2,500 feet altitude, speed building to 400 miles per hour, 8 guns per aircraft, 384 barrels firing simultaneously. The airfield becomes an inferno. Aircraft explode, fuel dumps detonate, hangars collapse. The Japanese scramble fighters. Approximately 15 get airborne. They climb to intercept. The P-47s, already at altitude, have every advantage. The Americans dive. Speed builds to 500 miles per hour. The Japanese cannot match it. They cannot climb fast enough. They cannot turn into the attack because the Americans do not turn. The engagement lasts 18 minutes. 33 Japanese aircraft destroyed, 27 on the ground, 6 in the air. American losses, 1 P-47 hit by ground fire during a strafing run. The pilot bails out over water and is rescued by a submarine. May 28th, another sweep, same tactics. 39 Japanese aircraft destroyed. The kill ratio over Japan in late May 1945 approaches 40-1. It is not combat, it is slaughter. The Japanese have run out of experienced pilots. The replacements coming from training schools have perhaps 100 hours of flight time, some less. They face American veterans with 2 years of combat experience flying an aircraft designed to survive and kill. The Zero was supreme in 1942 when Allied pilots did not understand its strengths and weaknesses, when they tried to fight turning battles at low altitude, when they scattered in panic instead of working in coordinated pairs. But by 1945, the mystique is gone. The Zero is obsolete. Its light construction, once an advantage, is now a fatal flaw. Its lack of armor and self-sealing tanks, once acceptable trade-offs for maneuverability, are now death sentences. Its 7.7mm machine guns, once adequate, are now pathetic against heavily armored American aircraft. The P-47 represents the opposite philosophy. Heavy, armored, powerful. It cannot outturn the Zero. It will never outturn the Zero. But it does not need to. It kills from altitude with speed and firepower the Japanese cannot match. It survives hits that would destroy any Japanese aircraft. And it brings its pilots home. June 1945, Okinawa secured. The invasion of Japan is scheduled for November. Operation Downfall. The P-47Ns will provide close air support. They will strafe. They will bomb. They will rocket. And if Japanese fighters appear, they will destroy them with the same tactics that worked over New Guinea, over the Philippines, over Iwo Jima, over Japan itself. But the invasion never comes. August 6th, Hiroshima. August 9th, Nagasaki. August 14th, the last full day of combat. First Lieutenant Urban Drew, flying a P-47N, named Detroit Mist 2, from the 413th Fighter Squadron, leads a formation over Nagoya. Below, Mitsubishi G4M bombers on the airfield. Drew peels off. His element follows. The strafe destroys multiple aircraft. Japanese fighters scramble, the P-47s engage. Drew shoots down 2. Other pilots claim 3 more. It is the last major air combat of the Pacific War. That night, Japan announces surrender. August 15th, 1945. The war ends. The P-47 Thunderbolt has flown more than 500,000 combat sorties. In the Pacific theater alone, it has destroyed 697 Japanese aircraft in the air, 2,100 on the ground, 1,200 ships and barges, 8,400 buildings and fortifications. The loss rate, 0.7% per mission, the lowest of any American fighter. The kill ratio in air combat, 5.4 to 1. For every P-47 lost in aerial combat, more than 5 Japanese aircraft fell. It is not the highest ratio of the war. The P-38 Lightning claims 6 to 1. The F-6F Hellcat, fighting over the carriers, achieves 13 to 1. But those aircraft fought differently. The P-38 had range and twin engines. The Hellcat had the advantage of carrier mobility and radar direction. The P-47 fought on land bases, often operating at the edge of its range, against an enemy that initially held every advantage in numbers and position. And it won. The reason is simple. The P-47 refused to fight the enemy's fight. Japanese doctrine, forged in China in the 1930s, emphasized close combat, tight turns, slow-speed scissors, patient stalking. The Zero was built for this. 7 tons of ammunition capacity, incredible visibility, turning radius measured in meters. It dominated every Allied fighter that accepted those terms. But the P-47 did not accept those terms. It fought with American strengths, industrial power, engine technology, firepower, armor. It climbed above the enemy and dove with physics on its side, 8 tons of mass accelerating at 9.8 meters per second squared. The Japanese could not follow, could not escape, could not survive. The burst when 8 50 caliber guns converged. Some called the P-47 a hammer. It is the perfect description. Elegant? No. Graceful? Never. But effective? Absolutely. The hammer does not need to be beautiful. It needs to fall hard and strike true. The P-47 fell from 26,000 feet at 800 kilometers per hour and struck with 12 kilograms of lead per second. Nothing could withstand it. The Japanese feared the P-47 not because it was faster than the Zero. At low altitude, it was not because it was more maneuverable. It never was. They feared it because it was invulnerable to their tactics. When a Zero pilot tried to turn with a P-47, the Thunderbolt simply dove away. When he tried to dive after it, his aircraft began to come apart from the stress. When he tried to climb away, the turbocharger allowed the P-47 to follow where his engine choked and failed. And when he finally got into position to fire, his light machine guns barely scratched the American's armor, while a single return burst tore his fragile aircraft to pieces. It was not a fair fight. War is not fair. The P-47 proved that superior tactics combined with superior engineering defeat superior maneuverability. The Japanese learned this lesson slowly, painfully, at the cost of thousands of pilots and aircraft. By the time they fully understood, it was too late. The P-47s, along with the P-38s and P-51s and F-6F Hellcats and F-4U Corsairs, had swept the skies clean. After the war, the P-47 served for years. Some nations flew it into the 1960s. But its moment of glory was World War II. Specifically, the moment when Neel Kearby rolled inverted over Wewak and proved that mass, speed, and firepower trump agility. That dive attack, repeated thousands of times by hundreds of pilots over 3 years, broke the myth of Japanese invincibility in the air. The P-47 Thunderbolt was not the aircraft anyone wanted in the Pacific. Too heavy, too thirsty, too clumsy, but it became the aircraft everyone needed, because sometimes the answer is not to outmaneuver the enemy. Sometimes the answer is to refuse to maneuver at all, to fight a different fight, to use strengths instead of matching weaknesses. The Zero could turn inside anything that flew, but it could not turn inside 8 50 caliber bullets traveling at 850 meters per second. It could not armor itself against 12 kilograms of lead per second. It could not climb faster than a turbocharger, breathing at 26,000 feet. And it could not survive combat against pilots who understood these facts and exploited them ruthlessly. That is why the Japanese feared the P-47 Thunderbolt, not because it was superior in every way, but because it was superior in the ways that mattered, and because American pilots trained by men like Neel Kearby understood how to turn those advantages into victory. The hammer fell again and again, from New Guinea to the Philippines to Iwo Jima to Japan itself, and when it fell, Japanese aircraft burned. Thank you for watching. For more detailed historical breakdowns, check out the other videos on your screen now, and don't forget to subscribe.